In recent years, former U.S. President Donald Trump's relationship with Russia and his stance on Ukraine have raised many eyebrows. His actions, decisions, and political motives seem to be tied not just to American interests, but to personal ambitions and strategic alliances, particularly with Russia. One of the major accusations against Trump is that he used the power of the U.S. presidency to pressure Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Trump reportedly had personal animosity toward Zelensky, mainly because Zelensky refused to fabricate a corruption story involving Joe Biden and his son, Hunter Biden. Trump's attempt to coerce Zelensky into making that false accusation led to his first impeachment in 2019, often referred to as the result of the perfect phone call. Trump's admiration for Russia isn't new. It dates back to at least 1987. He has shown a strong interest in Russian money and influence. According to insiders, including Steve Bannon and others, there could be hundreds of billions of dollars in Russian money waiting to be invested in the West if the political environment becomes favorable. Trump appears to see himself as the key to unlocking that fortune. Some believe Trump shares a vision promoted by figures like Alexander Dugin, a Russian political thinker close to Putin, and Steve Bannon. Their idea is to divide the world into three major powers: Russia dominating Europe, China controlling Asia, and the U.S. handling the Western Hemisphere. Trump seems to align with this view, placing himself at the center of a reshaped global order. The Nobel Prize obsession. Another surprising motivation behind Trump's actions may be his obsession with winning a Nobel Peace Prize. He has long envied Barack Obama for receiving one. Trump once tried to insert himself into major diplomatic events, such as nuclear arms talks in the 1980s, hoping he would be recognized as a great peacemaker. He likely thought that ending the war in Ukraine would earn him international praise. And finally, the Nobel he desires. How Putin uses Trump. Vladimir Putin, a former intelligence officer, understands Trump's ambitions and weaknesses very well. Russian intelligence may have helped Trump win the 2016 election, and Putin continues to manipulate him. Russia's strategic goal is clear: to gain control over Ukraine. To do that, they want to see a U.S. president in office, like Trump, who will weaken Ukraine and stop American support for it. One of Russia's current tactics is to push for new elections in Ukraine during the war, hoping a pro-Moscow leader, like former President Yanukovych, might return to power. Trump, in turn, may try to use financial aid as leverage, tempting Ukraine with money in exchange for political control. The new Ukraine, once known for corruption, has undergone a dramatic transformation since Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022. According to observers who have visited the country, corruption is now considered deeply dishonorable. The war has united the people and changed their values. Families are sacrificing their children on the front lines. To hear politicians in the U.S. question Ukraine's integrity is deeply offensive to them. President Zelensky, once a TV comedian who played a fictional president, has proven to be a real-life Churchill, courageous, determined, and inspirational. Trump reportedly despises that kind of moral leadership because it highlights what he lacks. Is the world heading toward war? Despite rising tensions in Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia, many experts believe the world is not heading toward a global conflict. Even countries like India and Pakistan, once on the brink of war, have pulled back. The global order is shifting, but not toward nuclear war. Instead, countries are focusing on economic power and influence. Trade, cooperation, and stability are more important than ever. Ironically, it is China, once seen as a major rival, that is emerging as a calm, strategic player on the global stage. The Chinese government is working long-term to become the world's top economy, not through war, but through education, trade, and diplomacy. How Trump is hurting the U.S. Trump's combative style and unpredictable policies have hurt America's global image. His racism, particularly toward China, has helped China gain sympathy and business from the rest of the world. In a matter of months, Trump's actions have achieved what China couldn't do in decades: unite other countries against the U.S. and in favor of Beijing. As a result, China is now home to some of the world's top universities, attracting global talent. Trump's ideology, often compared to the pre-Soviets America First movement of Charles Lindbergh, is isolating the U.S. and weakening its influence. Despite claims from Trump and his allies that Ukraine is losing the war, Zelensky continues to prove them wrong. When Russia launched its full-scale invasion, many predicted Kyiv would fall within days. Instead, Ukrainian forces pushed back, reclaimed cities like Kherson and Kharkiv, and launched bold operations, including attacks on Russia's strategic bomber fleet and the Kerch Bridge in Crimea. Ukrainian intelligence, especially the SBU, their equivalent of the UK's MI5, has been executing highly sophisticated deep penetration operations inside Russia. These are not just random strikes, they are carefully planned missions requiring coordination, strategy, and deep insider knowledge. Ukrainians and Russians once shared the same Soviet institutions, which gives Ukraine's intelligence an edge in carrying out such attacks. A war still raging. It's important to understand the geography. Ukraine is a large country. The war is mainly concentrated in its southeastern region, only the last 30 minutes of an 18-hour drive across the country. The rest of the nation continues to function and fight back. Ukraine has the ability to win, but the front is massive, about 1,000 kilometers, and hundreds of people die daily. Ukraine's best hope lies in asymmetric warfare, using intelligence, creativity, and strategic thinking to counter Russia's size and firepower. Trump's view of Ukraine as weak and doomed is both inaccurate and dangerous. He fails to understand that smaller nations, through courage, intelligence, and international support, can stand up to much larger adversaries. Ukraine is not a broken country. It is a resilient, united nation fighting for its survival and future. Trump's admiration for Putin and obsession with power blind him to that truth. As the world changes, it's becoming clear that leadership, based on fear, division, and self-interest, like Trump's, cannot create lasting peace or global respect. Instead, countries like Ukraine are showing what real leadership looks like: integrity, sacrifice, and the will to fight for freedom. Some believe Trump sees the world in a way shaped by Russian thinking. For example, there's an idea, supported by both Vladimir Putin's advisor Alexander Dugin and Trump's former strategist Steve Bannon, that the world should be divided into three parts. Russia would control Europe, the US would dominate the Western Hemisphere, and China would take Asia. Trump seems to support this worldview because it serves his interests. Russian President Putin, a skilled manipulator and former intelligence officer, has long understood how to influence Trump. By helping Trump politically, Russia aims to create conditions where Ukraine is weakened, possibly even installing a pro-Russia leader again like Yanukovych. Trump, in turn, might use American money to pressure Ukraine into giving in. Ukraine has changed. While Ukraine used to have a major corruption problem, the war has changed that. The Ukrainian people see corruption as dishonorable, especially since their children are dying in the conflict. To them, any talk suggesting Ukraine is still deeply corrupt is deeply offensive. Zelensky, a former actor who played a president on TV, has shown real leadership during the war. Many see him as a modern-day Winston Churchill. This likely bothers Trump, who seems to struggle with anyone else getting global respect. Are we headed toward global war? Despite tensions in Ukraine, the Middle East, and Asia, experts don't believe we are heading toward a world war. Even India and Pakistan, longtime rivals, have stepped back from conflict. The global focus is more on trade and stability than on war. China, for example, is playing a long-term economic game. While not perfect, they've managed to become more respected by being calm and strategic. Ironically, Trump's aggressive stance on China has only helped them rise, as more countries turn to China for trade and education. Chinese universities are now some of the best in the world. The reality on the ground in Ukraine: Trump and his supporters have claimed that Ukraine is losing the war, but that's not true. Ukraine has pushed back Russian forces in key areas like Kherson and Kharkiv. Recently, they even destroyed a third of Russia's strategic bomber fleet in a daring secret operation, possibly one of the most impressive attacks seen in modern warfare. Zelensky has continued to surprise the world by standing strong, even when American politicians like J.D. Vance or Trump tried to pressure or belittle him. Trump told Zelensky he had no cards to play, but Ukraine keeps proving him wrong. Zelensky's leadership and Ukraine's resilience are teaching the world that small nations can stand up to larger powers, and that dictators like Putin should not be underestimated, but also not be given what they want.